Sabrina, that was a great presentation. So much to think about there, and we do have some really great questions coming in. So I think we're just going to dive right in. Now, you may not be able to answer these specifically, but I'm hoping you might be able to provide some guidance. We've had some software questions come in. So folks that are looking for what they should be maybe looking for, or where they should be looking for specifically auction software and what you might use for that. And then also asking about the gala that you hosted, whether that was a Fluid Events platform or a third-party software platform.
Okay, great. And I mean, thank you. Great questions already. So auction, we have a great partner that we work with a lot. Most people have probably heard of them, Givergy. Givergy seems, you know, I've worked for them for years now, like about 8 years. So that's kind of our go-to. Another one that we did were introduced to this year was a company called Trellis, and we had a great experience working with them as well. So I would encourage anybody that if you're looking for a great auction platform, reach out to either of these companies. Definitely Givergy. They also integrate with the Fund a Need moment very, very well. Those are translated in the virtual space as well as in person. The platform that you saw, the event that we talked about, True Patriot Love, no, we work with outside vendors on all of them. So Fluid just comes in as kind of the event management service for all of those events.
Excellent. And you talked about having the gala boxes delivered. So we had some questions about whether you found the delivery costs prohibitive for that, and whether or not you would be able to save some of those costs perhaps by shipping the gala box with the meal. And did you have any thoughts about that?
Yes, great question. And we had those conversations amongst our team, especially during our first virtual event. So we worked with, I've worked with a couple of different couriers, worked with one now that I have enjoyed since the last one. So, you know, you got to feel out your partners when something is new. The courier cost for the celebration boxes were running about $12 per box. So actually not too cost prohibitive, but definitely those were within a certain kind of catchment area in a grid. So these events were happening in Toronto, so it was kind of within that GTA. Where it's going to get really costly is when you had to start shipping them across Canada, which with one of our events we did. So definitely make sure that you have that budget line item. Could it have been cheaper to ship it with the catering box, the food box? Yes, probably, but we didn't want to put that on our caterers' plate. They had enough to deal with to make sure the food got there in time. With the delivery boxes, again, you could ship those out the day before. I think it's worth the $10 per package or $12 per package. But definitely, if you can kind of find a really great caterer company that maybe, no, I wouldn't do that actually. No, the more I say it, no, because the caterer is delivering it with a refrigerator, van, truck, whatever they need. So I would try to keep those separate. That would just be my opinion at this stage from what I would know.
Wonderful. Okay, so the next question that we're going to ask is, what size of organization do you typically work with for your online events?
Oh my gosh, any size. So we have large clients like the ones we talked about today, but we've also done very small clients like small food banks, and we put on a virtual event. Again, if you don't have the budget, we have to work with you to understand what that production is going to be, because that's what the production is really still quite costly for your event expenses. So if we are working with a smaller organization like one of the food banks that we recently worked with, we produced all of the videos, we did recordings on Zoom. So you just got to get a little more creative, but it's all doable to still produce a really great virtual event.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Keep your questions coming in. The next question is, how do you create an impactful mission moment when you don't offer a service that pulls on people's heartstrings?
Well, I would say that every charity out there is pulling on somebody's heartstrings. So it may not be like a Children's Wish organization or maybe a hospital, but there is, I mean, you know who your donors are. We would just have to work with you to really find what's going to pull on those heartstrings. It's there. If any registered charity, there are donors out there that we can kind of create something different. It might not be a patient, a client coming up and talking about their experience, but maybe we're bringing in researchers, or maybe we're bringing in just anybody that has had the benefit of the funds of your organization. We can find it. We can curate a mission moment. That has never been a problem that we've had. So I think we can always kind of create something that's going to pull on those heartstrings, maybe just in a different way, but we could do that.
Great. And another question that just came in is, with a pre-COVID budget in place, what is your advice to tiny agencies who need to increase and expand sponsorship to support the cost of a hybrid event?
Okay, so can you repeat that one more time?
No problem. So with a pre-COVID budget in place,
Okay.
what is your advice to tiny or agencies who need to increase and expand sponsorship to support the costs of a hybrid event?
So they're looking at getting additional funding. I mean, it's about expanding that pipeline. So, you know, maybe are there grants out there that the organizations could go after that maybe they hadn't done in the past? Maybe go to your existing corporate sponsors, and I would have conversations. I mean, most of the donor managers have really great relationships with their corporate sponsors. Have a conversation. Tell them the predicament you're in. I mean, everybody knows that we're all trying to fundraise differently now in post-pandemic. I would have that conversation and say, we want to know, you know, how can we get more corporate dollars from you? How can we get an increased budget? These are the reasons why. I think pick up your phone. I know a lot of time you want to go out and you want to get new corporate sponsors, but really it's always that 80-20 rule. So go to that 20% and have really transparent conversations of what the need is, and hopefully they can increase it. If everybody just increases a little bit, hopefully you can kind of fill in that gap.
Great. And what are the advantages to online events versus in person?
Oh my God, there's so many. What a great question. Because, you know, it's one of those things at the beginning when we were all so scared of going into this virtual space because we got comfortable. We love our in-person events. But I think, you know, the real benefit of the virtual event is the reach. You can reach so many more people. You know, when you typically had a gala or something where people were in person, you're really stuck to that, you know, the 500 people, the 1,000 people in the room. Now you've got this reach to go national, to go global. So I would use it. You use these virtual events, taking that pre-recorded content. So a lot of that conversation that I had in the webinar, your pre-recorded content can now be used. I think charities' money that they're spending now on events, you're getting, it's just, it's going much further than it could, because an in-person, you know, how many of us have walked out of a convention center and you see all the programs on the floor, the centerpieces are going in the garbage, you know, it's like all that money we just spent, it's just like boom, gone. So now things just have a longer shelf life. So just get creative on making sure that, you know, you don't date some of the pre-recorded content. Or if you're going to date it, you've got a little bit of a budget to do a little bit of editing later, so you can reuse all of these assets. So that's what I would say was probably the biggest benefit.
Great. And maybe this question will lead into this quite well. This next one is, how can we keep attendees' attention online? Is there something like contests? Like what are some tips?
You know what? Another great question. And I mean, there's lots of conversations out there of doing, you know, the trivia games. We've stayed away from them, actually. We have just leaned on the mission and what is the message that we want to get out to the viewers. Instead of adding all the games and that just really add to the length of their program, pack your program with really great content for your supporters that are going to drive home the mission. So if you've only got 30 minutes to do that, use that 30 minutes. We don't recommend your events going over 45 minutes to an hour. We like adding in a little bit of entertainment on the top and either on the end of the virtual event, but you know, just keep it powerful, keep it really mission driven, not a lot of talking heads. The one thing that what I do believe the virtual events have got us away from is when you're in person at a gala, you know, I know it's hard sometimes, but everybody wants a chance at the podium. So you've got your board chair, your gala chair, your CEO, you know, you've got just a bunch of people. Maybe there's some dignitaries that have to speak. What I love about the virtual event, we've been able to cut some of that stuff out because you've only got 45 minutes. So just make sure that everything's important and nothing's dry.
Great. And in terms of ticket prices, should they be lower for a virtual event?
Another great question, and great conversations have been had this year about that. It's a hard one. So in the beginning, when we first pivoted some of our clients to the virtual space, we kept those budgets the same because a lot of them had already paid for their tables. So we thought, okay, we can get away with it this year. Can we get away with it year 2 with not actually going in person? I think sometimes you can. If you're still giving value, like a great, a 5-course meal is still being couriered to them. They've got a great gala celebration box and you've got great relationships. This is an event that's maybe been around 15, 20 years. Then those are the events that I think you're fine to still charge the same. You're putting on a new virtual event, maybe it's only in your year 2. I think you have to relook at your revenue model. I don't think that not everybody's going to want to pay $500, $1,000 to attend a virtual event. So you need to relook at that. You need to relook, okay, do you put a family package together? So maybe instead of it's just like 2 tickets, you put a family package so their kids can also join in on the fun and watch the event. And maybe when you relook at that revenue model, it's about increasing your corporate sponsorship dollars to fill that gap where you're going to now bring down the ticket price, or maybe not charge a ticket price to get more people just kind of online to hear about your mission, but you're closing the gap because you've increased the revenue model on the corporate sponsorship side.
Great. And okay, so let's go to our next question. Does an online event feel less exclusive to donors than a traditional gala?
Yes, it probably can. But that's where when you got to create like a VIP reception in the virtual space. So I talked a little bit about that one client where we did Zoom rooms where they could still separate password protected Zoom rooms where they could still host their clients. Maybe you can look at doing like a VIP pre the large virtual event. Maybe you have a celebrity coming in to like a pre-party just for the sponsors online. So I think there's ways to make it exclusive. I 100% agree that your top sponsors shouldn't be having the exact same experience as, you know, free ticket holders or the ticket price. So again, looking at ways to be creative, just how you probably all did in the in-person space.
Great. And what did you find most challenging about going virtual, and how did you overcome it?
I think it was getting out of my own way, to be honest. After at the beginning, I my dogs, the laundry thing. So I think just you got to be creative. What was the challenge? Okay, so keeping their attention, the learning curve. I know we had lots of challenges, but I think that was it. I think it was the learning. Other than that, once you kind of got your head wrapped around it and you sat through a bunch of events, I think, you know, we kind of got confident again. But great question, and thanks for asking that.
Great. And well, Sabrina, your internet had kind of cut out in and out. So I'm going to ask one more question and then we'll just close this. Okay. So we'll see. Okay. So the last one that I received was, do you have any ideas for what to include in the gala box?
Yeah, lots of ideas. You want to make sure that one, you have everything that's kind of in there can be mission aligned, so tying back to your mission. But also, like, I love the idea of having snacks. Everybody likes food and beverage, so if you can find a partner that you can work with to maybe donate a bottle of champagne, people love that. again, it's no different than swag bags. And I know we moved away from the swag bags a lot over the years, and you never wanted junk. So same thing, don't put junk in the gala celebration box. Make sure they can use it after. So if food and beverage, things that they can consume, really nice, either like a wine glass or one of the, the Yeti glasses that you can brand. I've seen that have been really great. And just all of your assets. Make sure there's lots of information on there that makes it really easy for your guests to log into the virtual event, maybe have your frequently asked questions, what to do if there's tech issues, so you can kind of just be proactive.
Wonderful. Well, I think we're going to end that here. Sabrina, thank you so much. This was such a great presentation, packed full of so much information. Do you have any final comments before we sign off today? And I think Sabrina's internet might have just gone down. So I know that she probably definitely would have said to thank you all so much for joining us and also for all of your questions. So I just want to remind everyone that you'll all receive a follow-up email later today with a link to the webinar recording. And please feel free to share this link with your colleagues. The email will also include a survey that you can fill out with your feedback on today's webinar, as well as additional information about our online virtual events course and how to enroll. So on behalf of Charity Village, thank you so much for joining us today. We have a lot of webinars planned over the next few months, including our next session on that's coming up next week on June 24th, that will provide tangible tips and tricks for leaders who are managing virtual teams. Now, you can find more information on this and all of our upcoming webinars at charityvillage.com/webinars. Thanks again for taking part in today's webinar. I wish you all a wonderful rest of the day. Take care.